Hi, everybody. I'm Dara. I'm excited to be here. I apologize if we have any technical difficulties. I am running on a hotspot and a generator at the moment. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here today with people in the industry who I've worked with and who have mentored me. I'm a voice actor. I have a traditional background with a theater degree and acting on stage and on camera, but people have come into the voiceover industries from so many backgrounds, which I always find fascinating and exciting. There's no one set path. So we'll be talking a little bit about that. And I also thank you for sharing your descriptors of your voices. I know a lot of you talked about being shy and quiet. Um, and that's something I really relate to. I was a painfully shy child. And as somebody who did always want to be an actor, voice acting was never something on my radar. The idea that anybody would just want to hear my voice um, was beyond me, because my whole life I've been told to speak up, speak louder. Why are you so quiet? And the truth is, your voice is enough as it is. You are enough. Um, and I hope we'll do more to empower you and let you know that you already have the tools that you need to tell a story, and that you don't need to be or sound like anybody else. So with that, we'll start with our first guest, who is Paul Liberti. Bring him up.
Hey, gang. How are
Hi,
you? Hello.
Paul.
How are you? Good to see you.
Cool.
Hey there.
Cool. Paul, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and some projects you've worked in,
Sure.
how you ended up in animation?
Sure. I'm a voice actor, and I started out as a child actor. 12 years old. I worked in theater. I did musical theater mostly, but I started singing and dancing. But I knew I was going to work with Jim Henson, and I knew I was going to work in Sesame Street. I knew I was going to work with the Muppets. I just made sure that that happened. And by the time I was about 20, 21, I was doing that. And I found a way to introduce myself to Jim Henson and Jane Henson, and I met the family. I lived in Trenton, New Jersey, and I lived near Sesame Place. And I knew that Jim lived in Bucks County, so I became dance captain at Sesame Place, and Brian Henson was working there. Jane Henson was visiting all the time. And so I became friends with his whole family, John Henson and Cheryl and Heather. And it was very exciting for me. And so I started doing some puppet work, and then Jim Henson started hiring me to actually workshop puppets at his carriage house on East 69th Street in New York City. And one of the characters I created was Baby Snuffleupagus, and I got to work on a lot of puppets, and he would say, what does this puppet need? And what does this feel like? And how do you fit inside this? So I started playing, and it really opened my mind up to so many different things. And it led me to many things. I sang backup at the Grand Ole Opry. I clogged on the Dolly Parton show. I've sang and danced across the world in 42nd Street in the chorus line. I've been on film. I'm a Stepford husband in the movie The Stepford Wives with Nicole Kidman. I'm the voice of Curious George now, and the man in the yellow hat on CuriousGeorge.com. I worked on Blues Clues, the original Blues Clues, which was really groundbreaking back in the 90s, when we had a show that we wanted to involve kids, and we wanted to not talk down to them or condescend to them. So we actually had a psychologist on the set with us. As the writers were writing things, each episode was designed so that we could have a certain idea that was passed on in each episode. Now, the truth of making Blues Clues, I have to tell you real quick, was that they would play one episode for an entire week when it first aired. And the truth was, we used to tell everybody that our psychologist said, well, it was because, we wanted to learn the lesson every week. The truth was, we couldn't make them fast enough because the episodes were drawn by hand and cut and paste. So the paste artists were working crazy, and it takes 10 months to do an episode. Not that they weren't working on several at once. So that's how Blues Clues happened. And then, yeah, so it's been really very exciting life. I get to play every day, and I'm never losing my inner child.
Awesome. Now we're going to talk a little bit about creating a character, and I wonder
Yeah.
if you can first speak to the relationship of how the animator informs the actor, and then once the actor has recording, how the actor informs the animator, and that relationship and storytelling.
I love that. And it's so interesting because I also get to teach voice acting and animation to actors. The process of creating an animated character is not just me playing a character and you know, or creating a sound. Yeah, doing, you know, something silly. It's really the combination of my work with the animation. And I have to be informed from the animators, from the writers, what they want. And then I take what they give me and it's like throwing a ball. We throw it back and forth and we create together. And it's not, you're going to do this and you sound like that and that's it. It's all a creative process and everybody has their input in it. It's very exciting to learn as much as I can. If I'm doing a new character and I'm working with like Cartoon Pizza, I did a series called Pinky Dinky Doo for Disney. And it's interesting because they would give me the drawings and they'd say, what do you think about this? And what do you like about this character? And then after they cast me, I was able to change lines. I was able to say, he wouldn't say it this way. He would say it this way. And they respected that. And they let me have input to that character, especially Disney. Disney will say, well, you know this character better than we do. So how would this character do this? And I love that the writers often say to me, you know, what do you think about this? Or what do you want? Rather than just, here's your script, say your lines next, you know? So that you're part of the creative process. And I think that's important.
If you're working on something like Pokemon, which you've done a lot of, and you have to do dubbing, how much creative freedom do you have in that? And how much are you trying to match the actor in the other language and following along with the lip flaps and all that?
Oh my gosh. So we do something called ADR, which is automatic dialogue replacement, where we actually take an animated series that's been done in another language, as you say, and we have to replace those voices. And I created several voices on Pokemon, and back in 1996, before most of you were born, and it's been running all these years. We never thought it was going to be what it is today. I remember they said this, you're going to do a show called Pokemon, and I went, what is this? You know, and it became Pokemon, but Pokemon as we say it. But you know, you have to really, there's three things that have to happen in animation when you're creating a character. You must anchor that character. Who's it based on? Where's the energy coming from? You must change placements. So I have to change placements where it's coming from, different than my own. Even just slightly moving that sound forward is going to sound different. If I go to head voice, it's different sounding. So it's change placement. And the other thing is change energies. So I have what's called an external energy and I have an internal energy. So all of animation has to go back and forth and vacillate between those two energies. So I'm internal. No, I'm external. No, I have something to say. No, I don't. Do I have anything? I know what to say. And a lot of people think that animation is just screaming into a mic. It's not. A lot of it is going inside your head as a character. So I have to internalize and then externalize and internalize. That's when acting becomes interesting. That's when you go back and forth.
You were recognized. Someone just asked if you're Professor Oak.
I'm Professor Elm. My friend Stuart Dagnett is Professor Oak, and I am actually Professor Elm. Yeah, Professor Elm sounds like this. And you know what's interesting? When I go back to that character, I like to remember how they'll often say, your last session, here's what you sounded like. And I'll go, great, but I'm not listening to what I sounded like, because I have to sound like I sounded in 1996, in 2001, 2010, 2015. And it's interesting because I listened to how I felt at the time. I'm listening to more than just what I sound like. I'm listening to the mood I was in. You know, Ash, it's Professor Elm. I need your help. You know, I need to really hear what I was thinking in my head, what I was feeling. Because I think what we create as actors is feelings, not just sounds. We're not just voices. We're full beings, and we really exist head to foot. And I think there's a sense of spirituality to us, head, heart, and body. And the more you personalize your characters, the more real they are to you, the more they really are for the listener and for the person involved and for the artists, because they need your input too to help create that character and keep that character growing, truly.
And I know you have some visual aids for us. So
Could
I let you take it away with that. Yeah. And we'll talk about creating
the
character.
process. I worked on a show called Chuggington, which you may know. And one of the characters I originally created, which actually didn't end up going to me, but it was when I created it, was a character called Old Puffer Pete. And what I did with it was, I want to show you the process that we do when we're creating a character. So they gave me this character, and this is old Puffer Pete, and they said he was a steam engine and he was older. So if I want to create a character who sounds older, what I do is I let go of the air in my sound. So if I want to sound younger, I'm playing an older person with a lot of air, I sound youthful. But if I exhale and I let go of all my air, I sound older right away. And they said he was a steam engine. So I said, well, steam engines kind of puff air. Oh, puff a Pete. And I gave him this sense of breath that a steam engine might have. And it was a lot of fun to really use the visual effects that the artist gave me of what the character looked like to create my version of the character. And the more I did, the more they laughed and loved it. And once I started, we would create words in the scripts that had P's in them and T's in them, so I could stutter, so I could sound like a steam engine. And they love that. This is another, I'm going to show you an example of whenever I take a picture and I want to create a character, there's three things that I have to look at, and that's the eyes, nose, and mouth. So Nickelodeon often sends me pictures and says, okay, how does this character sound? So those three ideas will give me where to go with the character, because many character actors will just walk in and go, okay, I got this character, here we go, let's go. It doesn't match the picture. So how do I do that? I look at the eyes and I literally put those eyes in my eyes. He's got very wide eyes and very wide, round eyes. He's got that kind of nice oval nose. He's got this nice smile and a tongue hanging out. So right away for me, I would also give him a Castilian lisp, yes, because he's got his tongue hanging out. So all I have to do is start speaking this way with my face looking like he looks. And that's how I begin to create an animated character from a drawing. Because as voice actors, everything we do, we're given a picture and said, what is this? And video games, what does this character sound like? And we have to do it pretty quickly. We don't have a lot of rehearsal. We don't have a lot of chance to really think about it. You got to go in your instincts and grab and run.
Awesome. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And we have a question which I think is relevant to all acting, is what life experiences have been most helpful to you in becoming a voice actor? And I know as actors we talk that the more you involve yourself in other things, the more you have to draw from and the
Yeah.
more well-rounded you are.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I get inspired by everything. I watch a lot. I go to theater, go to live theater as often as I can. Right now it's a little difficult, but I can watch live theater on television, and I get inspired by other actors. And I love working with actors in class. I like watching them in their process and finding out who they are within the work. You know, we're inside every character that we play. And I think every character that you play loves something. And actors are always saying, what's my motivation? For me, I'm always saying, what does this character love? What is this character passionate about? You know, where's the positive here of finding what does this character really need every day? And that's where I really start when I create character and go into a script is, what do I love? What do I have to have right now?
And is there a project that you found particularly challenging or difficult, or took you longer to find that voice or access it, or presented some sort of unique challenge that other characters hadn't?
Well, doing ADR is a little difficult. Well, the first time I did ADR where we had to replace the dialogue, Pokemon is done in Japanese. And the way it's done in Japan is they all sit around in a circle and they just talk to each other and record. It doesn't matter if the lip flap in Japan matches. In the United States and in English countries, it does matter because we have the Muppets. And the Muppets, the lip sync on a Muppet character. So a Muppet character matches that lip flap. We're used to seeing that in puppets. So when we go back into animation, that lip flap has to be exactly right on that syllable. So it's a little daunting to have to create character, be creative, but also matching lip flap and matching words from another language. So Pokemon's done in Japanese, and if they in Japan say, you know, we would say good morning, they might say, oh, and they go on, it's much longer. So we have to fill the space. So while you're recording, they'll say to you, what else could you say here? They actually have you do input. So I'll say, well, what do you think, huh? And you have to find yourself matching the full lip flap to fill the space. That's a little challenging because what we're hearing in our heads are beeps. So there's 3 beeps. You hear beep, 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 where the 4th one would be is when you start speaking. And if you come in too soon, it cuts you off and you have to go back. So you get good at it, but at the end of a recording session, which can be 3-4 hours, you're hearing beeps in your head for all that time, and you're only speaking not when somebody's speaking to you in the script, but when the beeps start. That's when you say your line. And the other thing with Pokemon is we're not allowed to see the scripts before we say them, because of social media. People tweet out the scripts, and there's other Digimon, there's other things that we're always wanting to know what those characters were going to be called and what the storyline was, because everybody was always wanting to steal those stories. So we had to, we were not allowed to see those lines until we said them, and that's challenging, but it's also fun. And I've really grown to embrace that process of creating instantly. And part of my background was at Second City in Chicago doing improv and sketch comedy. And that really fed me as a voice actor to really be spontaneous in everything that I do. And it's like being shot out of a cannon. It's like, go! So Pokemon, go! Yeah, so it's crazy.
One last question,
Yeah.
which is, are there characters where you use your natural speaking voice? And I guess my follow-up to that, what aspects of voiceover do you tend to come as Paul versus animation, where you might be more likely to take on a
Isn't that
character?
funny? I don't usually get to use this voice. I think I grew up not liking the sound of my voice. I thought I had a weird timbre voice. And when I was younger, I talked up here, and didn't realize at the time I was speaking in a head voice and that I had a chest voice. Once I learned to sing, I learned how to lower my register, and because I sounded very young. And so I never so when I audition for animation, I don't usually get to hear my own voice. When I play the Man in the Yellow Hat, I use basically my own voice, but it's heightened. Let's help George find his way through. And when I say George, Will Ferrell did the film, and Curious George Films, and I get to do the website. But the way he said George was George, he would swallow it. So when I take that, let's help George find his way through and I'll take that and use that so that it kind of matches. So I'm always doing some other sounds. I like to change the way I sound because I don't have to sound like me all the time, And I can create all kinds of crazy characters. And for me, it's an escapism too. I love it. I'm still inside there. And I can talk as myself and just put this sound on, not even think about what I'm doing. And I think as myself, and that character is alive, rather than just, if I'm very aware of how I sound, that's all I'm thinking about. But if I just let it go and turn on the switch, I can talk in character and not have to think about, what I sound like, but what I'm thinking is what I have to focus on. The rest is just a mask on top, or, like putting on a costume.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul, so much. Any
It's
final
over.
words of inspiration?
Oh
I know,
yeah.
it went by so fast.
My gosh, yes, I do have some final words. The only time you run out of chances in life are when you stop taking them. And I think there's always chances. And if you can see somebody who's taken an opportunity or succeeded in a career, then so can you. And I think it's important that you realize that you have the power to do anything you want to do. And the only one who stops you is your own thoughts. Oh, well, I can't do that. I can't do that. If I say, well, I'm not a writer, well, then I'm not. But if I say I am a writer and I can write, then I'm a writer, So I think it's important that we realize what we say and what we think about ourselves is really, really important, because that's the truth for us. And also the other thing I would leave you with is someone else's success is not your failure. And when you see other people around you succeeding, that doesn't mean that you have failed. It means that you have to embrace the opportunity to succeed as well, because we're all connected. Every one of us is connected.
You are that much closer to success when someone
truly, absolutely. And just love what you do. Never lose your inner child. As an actor, whenever you get out to play, as an animator, always remember that your inner child is within you, ready to play. And if we push that down, he gets very upset. So I let him out and play. I'm almost 60, and I come out. I play with puppets. my life is creative. Everything I do in my life is about creating and playing, letting that inner child come out and play every single day. And I think that's what we must do in all of our work, as a writer, as an author, as an artist, as a voice actor.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Mhm.